Philosophers talk to our times. We citizens of dystopia. So what's your current dystopic manual? I mean, which book do you go to learn about the world that we're in? I kind of think exploratory fiction, science fiction is a very good place. Not because it's right, but also to notice where it was wrong or how things worked out differently. My current minor political gospel, I suppose, a similar work of fiction that describes the truth, would be The Subliminal Man by J.G. Ballard. I don't know with how much you know about J.G. Ballard. He used to live in the village I was born in, Shepperton, and therefore was a bit of a local figure. But he wrote very good, very, very dark science fiction. And it seems to me we're actually playing out a version of The Subliminal Man. This is the one where fundamentally capitalism would have collapsed some time ago if they hadn't have moved towards the 24-hour-a-day week and endless consumption. Folk have to buy. It's their social duty to keep on consuming and therefore to keep on working. All the contours of life before the capitalist utopia have been totally eroded. There is no real food. There is no countryside. Beyond the roads and the glitz and the light, there is mere piles of rubbish that is never recycled, and a world that is clearly choking itself to death. Well, it isn't. Humans are choking to death. And the action revolves around a doctor who is slightly cynical on the world he sees and the way that it makes him endlessly conform, buying ever new cars. So much so that he occasionally insists that he and his wife eat health food. And health food is just actual fish from the sea or chickens on the farm, and not the blobs of gelatine that pass of food in this sterilized world. A world that has to be that sterilized, for otherwise the rats would have taken it over. The food they actually eat, you see, has no nutrition. So they need to take vitamins as well. That slightly cynical doctor and a hippie called Hathaway. And Hathaway is endlessly fretting and infuriated by the world in which he lives. That's very far from anything that he thinks of is ideal. And harangues the doctor about how he should behave, a clever man like him, when faced with this kind of world. But the immediate action of the book is that they're putting up great big black signs that nobody knows quite what they're for. People say they're probably for the airport, but they're going up everywhere. In the middle class areas, they're half timbered. In the working class areas, just great big black slabs. And they're just there. And Hathaway gets obsessed about what they are. And the final scenes of the book have him climbing up one and pressing the buttons. And you suddenly see, and the signs are revealed for what they are. Subliminal advertising. Flashing message. Buy. Yes. A new car. A new car. Yes. Buy. At the pulse rate that the human brain cannot see it, but strangely understands it. And the doctor sees that. He understands what he's going, and he turns to his car and realizes he needs a new one. And isn't that the game we're playing? Isn't that the story? What are these data centers for, really? Why do you need so many of them? Is it so that we can write schedules? Or ponce around pretending that we are artists, making the video of our dreams? Is it really? Why do we need so many then? Isn't it really that all that poncing around, all that being artists and stealing copyright is to allow us in this dystopia to have a share in the crime? Our lesser crime is being used then to justify the greater. quick word of I do think it is a crime, just as coming from an artistic background. AI nicking materials, nicking songs is clearly a copyright crime. And therefore that guilt is meant to tarnish us with the same brush as the whoever are in charge. I'm a little cautious of just saying the billionaires, because I suspect it's the millionaires as well. I suspect it's a wider coterie than 30 of the richest men. But we can call it then. But anyway, the tech giants and all their shareholders, those that pay everybody's pension, are caught up then in a great scheme, not subliminal advertising, so much as creating great AI centres that are capable of processing your entire brain power, and therefore always working out what you would buy, using something far more insinuating than just flashing images in front of the eye, but turning your entire brain into a subliminal advertising opportunity while we make films. While we make the films that we want. Our data is, of course, being stripped. And just like the subliminal man, this is just happening. It's not something that anybody particularly wanted or asked for. Suddenly water is being cut off. Power is being subrouted. They're building 3 massive data processing plants here in France because the nuclear power makes it feel safe and forever cheap. But that creates energy supplies in France. So the needs of the population are being sacrificed. What for? Well, it must be for something that people really want. And the obvious answer is that the government has taken the AI shilling. That they want to be able to process the big data of their populations in order to police them. It is the clear and obvious answer. And therefore they need the data in order to be able to do that. And therefore they need the data centers. And even if that was not what they were made for, given that too many of them are being made because they're being made by rival concerns, and so we're going to end up with too many data centers, you can bet your bottom dollar that is what they will be used for. They won't be using for solving the problem of global warming, because actually, if capitalism had been left unchecked, it would probably now solve a large chunk of it, as the fossil fuel industry is clearly dying. No, it will be used for policing the population when they start to rail against the way that the fossil fuel industry is peculiarly protected and justified by open-ended propaganda that was true for, 40 or 50 years ago, but has no relevance now. It will be used then to try and turn us into the genuine subliminal man, driving us hither and thither, launching advertising campaigns, slowly nuancing, encouraging us to confuse our thoughts with the suggestions that are endlessly being put in on them by our silent chums in our pocket, by our phones, by those ways we access data. The subliminal man is now everywhere. It has become our norm. So much so that the only sensible thing to do is to make sure that you have chunks of your day where you're out of earshot from your phone. I don't know about you, but just to give you an example, I've started wearing a watch again. Why? Oh, because it means I just don't have to carry my phone around. And I simply leave my phone in one room. And yes, I go on a computer, but it's an old computer, and they're not quite doing it with the computers yet. Because you're now in a world where you have to assume that when you are on any of your devices, somebody is watching and listening. And I suspect, but I don't know, but this would be a nice little test to find out what happens to computers. You see, in the J.G. Ballard story, the logic of it in our version would be they stop producing computers that are capable of really writing code. They want to move everything into the data centers so that everything gets done on pads and phones. And you get told, well, it doesn't matter. You'll just be online on the data center and that will be fine. But of course, what it means is that anything you do, everything you say, is being watched and monitored by those data centers. And of course, this fits the overall pattern. After all, what else was the point of G5? I mean, G5 is never going to kill you. The microwave energy is not strong enough, so that was always a red herring. But the anti-G5 campaign understood not as a health issue, but as a kind of a mental hygiene issue. Well, that was reasonable, because this was the bandwidth that was capable of stripping your data, of making sure that you were open to the data centers, of making sure folk could listen. And now they can and will. So it has become very important to understand your phone is no longer your friend. It is your quiet spy. It always was. And this has always been on the cards since Facebook, 10 years ago, decided that its product wasn't the information it was giving. No, it was you. And they were going to sell your data. And suddenly huge amounts of data were exposed. And all the companies thought, oh, is this how we make money with the internet? We sell folks data. We turn them into the subliminal man. I don't, you see, believe in the big conspiracy here, but the small. What actually happened was this was how the internet could make money. And so here we are, caught up in a dark J.G. Ballard fantasy. And of course, in J.G. Ballard fantasies, there is no resolution. In the end, the big tech wins because there's nothing left. But then our world is moving of its own accord. Our environment will collapse just as the last great data center is completed. And what then? Are we going to use them to compute our way out of the problem? I doubt it. So I think it is worth resisting data centers, pointing out endlessly what they are going to be used for. They're not about us. They're not about directing traffic to the airport. They're rather about taking over what we can become and driving us hither and thither for another's benefit.